what we value in a job changes with the different phases in our life. There really is no point in trying to figure out what future me will value. We want to have a great salary, a lot of flexibility, make an impact, amazing colleagues. We all want the whole package. Through your job, you are able to live the life you want. It's a tool that is helping you achieve your bigger life goals. Nowadays, your job is such a big part of your identity that we often expect a job to give us everything. I do not believe that dream job is a complete myth. Get ourselves into great jobs that are a good match for where we are in life.
Career Reset, the podcast to help you succeed as a job seeker, by Carolina Newmanen.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Career Reset podcast. So I have to say that I am not very happy with myself about the frequency with which I record these episodes. I was maybe quite ambitious when I thought that I would be able to record and publish one episode a week. That is still my goal, and I think it technically would be possible. But I had a very unexpected challenge with the last episode, which I recorded during my kids' nap time, which is a very precious time for me, and I spent the whole nap recording an episode basically on the same topic that I'm gonna talk about today. And then when I sat down to edit it, I found out that none of the sound recorded, that there was just some problem either with the microphone or with my laptop, like something just was off, and so there was just my talking head, just a video, but none of the sound, and that was not easy to process. I will admit that I cried a bit after I realized that basically over 2 hours of work was completely wasted, and I just couldn't even imagine having to re-record that episode, or I was just really annoyed at myself that why didn't I check it? Why didn't I just record like a very short test video to see if everything works? But that's just not me. I'm the kind of person that when I decide to do something, I just go and do it. And that is in a way good because I don't need to spend too much time thinking about it. But at the same time, sometimes it's good to check if everything works so that I prevent the situation where I wasted a ton of time for nothing. But I have now processed that trauma. I'm back and I'm determined to make even a better episode on the same topic, because I've been thinking about this topic a bit more, and I thought that some of the aspects that I want to share, I would like to talk about a bit differently. But before we jump into today's topic, which is talking about dream jobs, and if that's still a thing, if it's a myth, if it's a real thing, if it's something you should strive for, I want to just give you a little bit of an update on basically the topics that I'm gonna talk about from now on. So in the last episode, I talked about strategic job seeking, which is a concept that I developed through being a job seeker myself, working as a recruiter and working as a career coach, helping other people land jobs. And in a way, that episode was maybe an end of one chapter of my coaching work, because when I originally started coaching, I wasn't really set on any particular topic. My coach training was focused on general, life coaching, basically helping people with any kind of area that they need help with. But most people who sought me out, I think is the correct English term, they wanted to talk about their jobs, be it progressing in their career or finding a new direction in their career. And I found out that these were also the topics that I enjoyed the most. So when I decided to start my coaching business, I decided that career coaching would be something that I would, where I feel like I can add the most value, what I also enjoy the most. And I also have a background in recruitment, which is extremely valuable for career coaching, almost a necessity, I would say. But actually, my goal from the beginning wasn't to be specifically focusing on job search. So helping people with CVs, interview prep, my main passion was helping people figure out what they want to do in their career. And I have very often found this to be kind of the main problem. That it wasn't so much that people wouldn't know what to do or how to apply for jobs, but that they were a bit all over the place and they were not really sure what would be the right direction. And I have found that this search for the next best step, for the right career, for the right job, that never ends. With the world changing so much these days, we are constantly adapting and we are constantly thinking what would be the next best step. So it's not something that only, let's say, recent graduates struggle with, but I feel like especially people who maybe have a few years, 5 to 10 years of experience, they are wondering what kind of direction they should take now. And the clients that I worked with, where this was our main focus, to talk through all the different possibilities that they are considering, look at them from different aspects, figuring out what it would take to pursue certain directions, and then making a plan how to move forward, that this was often the most helpful. I can, of course, help someone edit their CV, and sometimes that can make a difference, but in most cases, I feel like it is this lack of direction and stress about what people should focus on that I'm able to address really well. So when I started my coaching business, like everyone else who starts their business, I was a bit all over the place. I was finding my voice. I was finding the topics that resonated not just with me, but also with my audience. And I quite quickly saw that when I talked about specifically job seeking topics, that resonated the most. And I thought that, okay, I have a lot to say on this topic, and it's something that is really, really close to my heart, helping people gain the insights they might not be aware of that will make the whole job seeking process much faster and much more enjoyable. And that whole work then culminated into me creating my Career Incubator online course that really combines years and thousands of hours of work. Well, you will not have to do the thousands of hours. I did them and then I combined them into this course. And I've recently started feeling like when it comes to job seeking, I have said everything I can possibly say. I have said it many times, many different ways. I have created a ton of content on the topic, and the strategic job seeking episode I recorded felt like kind of bringing it all together and also in a way closing that chapter. I really want to get into what originally I started my coaching business with, and that was helping people figure out the right direction in their career. I got a bit sidetracked for a few years, and I'm really happy that I did, because I think I created so much value and I have helped so many people. But coaching is a very, very intense thing. And if you do not do it with 100% passion into the topic that you're coaching about, it's not going to work for the client, for you, for nobody. And in this sense, I had to be honest with myself that right now I feel much more drawn towards helping people figure out what they want to do as a career. And I still help people with their CVs and LinkedIn profiles, because I'm not saying that if you just figure out what you want to do, things will magically happen. But I just want to focus more on the importance of helping people think about what are their values, what would be a fulfilling job for them, explore different options, and then make a powerful decision on which career direction they want to move forward. And related to that, I think I did not share this in the last episode, but I've actually, after almost a year, I've reopened my one-on-one coaching practice. So because I was pregnant, having a baby, and all over the place, I paused my one-on-one coaching because I did not feel like I was in the position to be really there for my client. But now I finally am again able to help people one-on-one, and I'm opening just a very few spots because my capacity and energy is still limited, but I'm really determined to help as many people as I can. If, for example, today's topic resonates with you and that it is something that you would like to discuss with me, then wait till the end of the episode and I'm gonna share how you can get in touch with me. and how we can set up a free intro session and talk about what would be maybe your dream job. But now let's move on to today's topic. I'm not sure what I'm going to call this episode. Something about, I think I'm going to call it Is Dream Job a Myth? So if the name is different, then I changed my mind. that can happen. I am curious if at some point in your career you had some kind of a job in mind that you considered that would be your dream job. For me, there were definitely times, I think it was mainly when I was a student, when I had some kind of idea of what would be my dream job. And I was really hoping that if I work hard and if I have a really good GPA, I'm eventually going to get into that dream job. Now I see the way our careers work a bit more realistically, but I still stumble upon this dream job thing, and I feel like some people absolutely swear by it. They have some kind of a job in their mind that they are really working hard towards, and some people just think that it's a complete nonsense and that job is just something you do to pay your bills, and there is no such thing as a dream job. So basically in today's episode, I want to share 3 different points related to the concept of a dream job that I have gathered from my own career journey and from helping other people with their career journeys, because it's not as black and white. We cannot completely dismiss that some jobs may be much better suited for us than others and striving towards getting into those jobs. But at the same time, we need to keep some kind of a realistic overview of what a job can give us. So if I think back when I was a student and my understanding of what working life looks like was very limited, I often thought that dream job is some kind of a job title. That when we had, for example, some guest speaker during my studies, or when we went to visit some company and someone introduced us, or when I was browsing jobs, then some job titles just sounded cooler than others. And without knowing absolutely anything about those particular jobs, I would often think like, that sounds really cool. I would really love to have that kind of job, like have that job title. And later, when I was a job seeker, some job titles really sparked my interest. And when I was thinking a bit further into my career, some kind of a managerial job title, and I was thinking like what would come with it, some maybe nice salary, nice benefits, traveling, having an influence, and I thought that would be the dream job. And I see that quite often. I think when someone asks you that what would be your dream job, we often tend to think in terms of the job title. And often we think of some like influential job title, some kind of a leadership managerial position, because we do tend to associate that with a lot of benefits and some kind of a social status that particular job title could give us. And for me, through trial and error on my career journey, I basically decided that my dream job would be to be a recruiter. Again, without really knowing 100% what the job entails, I think recruiter is the kind of job where everyone can imagine what that roughly means, but not many of us know what exactly the day-to-day looks like. And personally for me, for my situation, recruiter did not turn out to be my dream job, but that is not necessarily because of the job itself. That is because of the overall environment, the overall setting in which I worked as a recruiter. And I think that's the main problem with striving towards one specific role, one specific job title, and believing that that's going to be the best possible match for us. Because obviously what we do on a day-to-day basis in a job has a huge impact on our happiness. But I would almost argue that it is not the main aspect, that the main aspect is the environment in which we work, the culture. Is there a lot of pressure on performance? Is there a very laid back atmosphere? Do we have very flexible working that allows us to combine our other life aspects together really well? That has much bigger impact on our overall fulfillment than what tasks we do on a day-to-day basis. And the thing is that in any job, you will inevitably have to do tasks that you really do not enjoy. But if the overall setting is enjoyable, if overall you see purpose in your role, in what you do, you can do these not so enjoyable tasks with much less frustration than if the whole situation is just not a great match for you. But at the same time, I love talking about these topics because there are just so many different layers. And even though you have the same job for several years, every single day feels a little bit different. And sometimes you are extremely frustrated and sometimes you are really happy. And it can change even within a single day, that you can feel bored and you can feel excited and you can feel like you don't really see the point, or you can feel really motivated. So that's the problem with kind of thinking that there is some ideal dream job situation in which you are just happy all the time. It's just never gonna happen. And if you keep searching for this situation, you will just end up your whole life searching for something that in the end does not exist. And while I'm saying that your day-to-day tasks are equally or maybe a little bit less important than the overall environment, what I don't want to say is that as long as you work for a nice company with friendly colleagues, then that's all that matters. And even though you think your job is absolutely pointless and you do not enjoy the tasks, having friendly chats with your colleagues is what makes it better. That is exactly the situation that I help people with. And so I ask people if they enjoy their job. So often, really so often, not just with my clients, but even with my friends, they tell me yeah, it's fine. It's a job. I have nice colleagues. And it's, of course, super important to work with nice people. Personally, I think that in every company, in every organization, you will meet nice people. People are mainly generally nice. Not all of them, but definitely at least some of them. So the chances of you working in a company where you hate absolutely everybody are quite slim. And so I think you can aim for a bit more than that. Okay, but let's bring it to some kind of conclusion on this rant. I think that claiming that a certain job title would be your dream job is a bit of a trap that I would avoid. Something I highly, highly recommend is focusing your career right now and your future ambitions on one specific area. Having a couple of job titles in mind might be helpful. For example, to put as keywords in your LinkedIn profile, in your about section, you can write that in the future you would mainly be interested to grow into this kind of roles. You can know these job titles in case a recruiter approaches you, so that you can filter quite well whether the opportunity they approach you with would be something that's a good match for you. Or then even when you are browsing jobs, it makes it much easier if you know specific job titles that you would potentially be interested in. But as I was trying to explain at length in this section of the podcast, it's not everything. There are so many different aspects that will make up the overall experience of the particular job. So if I would be thinking about what would be potentially my dream job, I would think from a broader context of what kind of environment you want to work in terms of your day-to-day tasks, but also in terms of how the company is structured, what's the culture, what are the people, how the company operates, what do they offer you in terms of, for example, flexibility. And from that, you can build a much more comprehensive picture of what would actually be your potential dream job. The second consideration I want to suggest if you are thinking about what your dream job would be, and if you haven't yet come to the answer and you maybe find it really difficult to come up with the answer for yourself, then I want to suggest that what we value in a job changes with the different phases we find ourselves in our life. And I can see this very clearly because if I think about what kind of clients I have worked with, it's quite a nice spectrum in terms of age and life situation. So I have worked with a lot of students and recent graduates, but I've also worked with people in their late 50s, people who are towards the end of their career journey, and I've also worked with people somewhere in the middle, and I can so clearly see how the priorities are just completely different. And not just the priorities, but also what we are willing to sacrifice or what we are willing to push aside for a bit. So typically people in their 20s at the start of their career, they really prioritize growth, learning, getting into some kind of role where they are able to make an impact, especially people who have a university degree, spend years working towards that degree and not really making some kind of tangible impact. So they are usually really, really hungry to get into some kind of a role where they will be able to hands-on do something and be able to finally implement all the different learnings. And at the same time, they are willing to compromise on a lot of things. For example, an overtime here and there is not really a problem. Traveling for a job is actually even exciting. They often care much more about the company culture, and they would like to make new friends. They don't consider the people just as colleagues. While then people in their 30s, 40s, they start having much more commitments in terms of, for example, buying a house, having a big loan, having a big financial commitment, having also more expectations, which then means they need to earn some kind of money to be able to meet that expectations. They stop caring so much maybe about the impact, the learning, because they have so much going on in their life otherwise, and they just need that the job really sits well with their life priorities. And then people who are towards the end of their career, if they are planning to retire, then they mainly value things like being respected by their job, feeling like the fact that they have tens of years of experience is valued by the company, that they are not pushed to the sidelines, but they are able to utilize all that they have learned throughout their career. Also, they have some financial goals with retirement nearing. They are maybe trying to save up as much as possible. And certain aspects, like a lot of overtime and a lot of traveling, is maybe completely out of question for them. So what that means is that our dream job naturally will change completely based on where we are in our life. And that's why the idea of trying to think of a job that you will still enjoy doing in 20, 30 years is very unrealistic, because you cannot know what your life will look like in 20, 30 years. What will be the priorities? Will it be a priority for you to earn a lot of money so that you can maintain a certain standard? Or will it be a priority that you are doing something with a lot of meaning? Maybe at some point you will have children, or you already have children, and you will start thinking about things like, okay, what kind of world do I want my children to live in, and how can I contribute to make that world a little bit better for them? And I also see quite often how our need for flexibility changes a lot. I can see that in myself. Now, having a kid, there are simply jobs that I would not be able to do at the moment. Or like, okay, if there was no other option, I would make it work. But for example, in my 20s, it was important for me that the company that I work for has some cool office in a cool location that has a lot of good lunch spots. And right now I could not care less about that. If I were to look for a job right now, my number one priority is that that job is flexible and can be done fully or almost fully remotely, because commuting to an office, the commute there and back, that is time away from my child, who is growing super fast every day, and missing on the little moments that I have with her due to having to sit on a train is simply out of the question for me right now. And it's not just about me, but it's also about thinking, how can I be at my best for my employer's sake. So if I would have to sit all day in an office and my mind would half be thinking, what is my baby doing? And just counting hours till I get to see her again, that would not make me a very productive employee. But if instead I can work from home and I can maximize the time that I spend with her, then I might actually be really excited to sit down to do some work, have some time away, but then as soon as possible be able to again spend the time together. But again, that is something that is important for me right now. So I would not try to build my whole future career around flexibility, because who knows, in 10 years I might again be in a completely different situation and my career might be a much bigger priority, and I might actually prefer to have some kind of a job that is clearly defined, for example, in terms of having a dedicated office where I can focus. Maybe in the future my house will not be the best place to get some productive work done, and then I might actually prefer to be in an office. So there really is no point in overwhelming myself with trying to figure out what future me will value and trying to build some kind of sources of passive income so that I can retire at the age of 35, when maybe that will be the time when I will have the most energy and interest towards working towards doing something meaningful. I think flexibility will always be a very important value, but the scope of that flexibility does not need to be that I need to be a digital nomad. And I'm also open to the idea that at some point in the future I will have certain financial goals and I will be again willing to sacrifice other things temporarily. So how to make this all applicable to your situation is like, think about where you are in life right now. What is the priorities? We want to have it all. We want to have a great salary, great job, a lot of flexibility, make an impact, work for a company that's making the world a better place, have amazing colleagues, and just like, we all want the whole package, but you will always have to compromise on something. But it's much better to make these compromises consciously. So to consciously decide what is right now for you a non-negotiable, and what is something that at this point in your life right now you are willing to compromise on, you are willing to sacrifice even. And be open to the idea that this may change, maybe in 5 or 10 years, maybe in a few months. So instead of trying to figure out some perfect future career path that will always meet your needs, it's better to get into the skill of recognizing what your needs are right now and thinking about what career paths might be better suited to meeting those needs. And when time comes that your needs change, you can go through this process again. You can again think that was important for you right now and find a career path that would be a good match for that. What can be considered as your dream job will change. It will change not just based on your interests, your passions. It will also change based on your overall life. I really deeply believe in the idea that a job should be an integral part of your life. That through your job, you are able to live the life you want, that it's some kind of a tool that is helping you achieve your bigger life goals, so that the job is not a goal itself, but it's, as I'm saying, it's a tool to achieve your life goals. And for that to happen, you need to, of course, know what those life goals are. And if you do not know what those life and job goals are, then do let me know. We can work together. We can figure it out together. As I mentioned, it's something that I'm extremely passionate about doing, helping other people figure out what they want to do in their careers. And I love how when I start working with new people, it's like so overwhelming, lots of different ideas, lots of different options they are considering, and they feel completely snowed under. And then we get together, we get some kind of a hypothetical snow shovel, and we go through all that's on their mind, and they leave on the other hand with a very, very clear idea of where they want to focus on in their life and in their career. I absolutely love doing that. And if that sounds like something you could use a little help with, you feel a bit overwhelmed by just going through this in your head by yourself, then check out the link in the description box or in the show notes, depending where you're listening to. And you can fill a very short form where I just ask you a couple of questions of where you're at career-wise, and then I'm gonna get back to you and we can schedule a free intro call. We can go through what's happening in your life, in your career right now. We can make some sense of it, and we can make a plan what it would take and how we could get you as close as possible towards your dream job. So you can check out the link in the description box. If this episode, if what I'm talking about is resonating with you, then I would really suggest you consider working with me, because those are exactly the topics we would dive into. But of course, specifically for your case, I am trying to make this episode applicable to a wide range of people. So I need to generalize a little bit, but it would make even more sense when we consider only your needs and your ideas about your current life and career goals. Okay, and now let's talk about the final aspect that I want to share when it comes to talking about a dream job. And this is an idea that I actually got from books and podcasts on relationships, because in the past people lived in bigger communities, but nowadays we often live just with our nuclear family. We spend time with very limited number of people, and we spend a lot of time with our partners. And as a result, we have much more expectations of our relationships, and we want that our partner fulfills lots of different needs that in the past would be fulfilled through different people. And I sometimes feel that it's the same with our jobs, that nowadays your job is such a big part of your identity that we often expect a job to give us everything, to give us meaning, to boost our confidence, to be perfectly aligned with our values, ideally even help us discover what these values are, to be our vehicle for personal growth. And that's a lot of pressure that we put on our jobs, and not many jobs are able to deliver all these different aspects. Like, your job is not your therapist, your self-validator. Most of us have been in a situation where our bosses or someone in the leadership of the company used their job and their power as a vehicle for self-validation, and it was not probably a very good experience. And it's actually extremely freeing to realize that your job does not need to give you everything, that you can fulfill your different needs through your hobbies or through time with family, through just other means. And then you don't need to expect that your job will be all the time great and all the time make you feel fulfilled. It should be that most of the time, but then there are certain things that you can much more easily get from somewhere else. Often I see people kind of struggling to find meaning in their life, to feel like how they're living their life gives them a lot of purpose. And the first place where we often go when we are missing this meaning in our life, we tend to run to our jobs and try to find it there. But that's not really a good thing. We then can overspend the amount of time and energy at work, which then very quickly leads to burnout, which is unfortunately extremely common these days. We need to do this work ourselves. We need to learn what our values are. We need to respect ourselves. We need to build our own confidence, and then we can bring it to the workplace and just take from the job what makes sense for us. And we don't need to put all this pressure on our jobs and expect it's going to give us everything and it's going to make us feel great and confident and impactful. You can build that yourself even without a job. And that is actually something that I would recommend, that you do not search for all your self-worth in your job. Now with so many layoffs happening, so many amazing people, despite working extremely hard, getting laid off because of financial difficulties that their company ran into, which has absolutely nothing to do with them, but it's simply what happens when the economy is in a bad shape. And usually these very hardworking people have a lot of their self-worth tied to their job. And then when they suddenly, maybe overnight, they lose that job or their position no longer exists, they can really struggle to then see who they are and accept the situation and move on. So although I'm a 100% believer in working hard and showing at your best to that job, giving it your all in some kind of normal boundaries, thinking about a dream job in terms of that being everything you do and everything you are, that's not really the way. As I mentioned, I believe that the job should be an integral part of your life, and it should not be that it's the main aspect of who you are and what you do and everything that matters in your life. And if some of these aspects that I'm listing here, like confidence, self-respect, having boundaries, knowing your values, living your values, seeing meaning in what you do day to day, if you do not see that in your job right now, if you do not see that in your life right now, maybe before, jumping into how a job could fix that and talking to your boss and trying to find a way to meet this need, think if there would be maybe a better way of working on yourself that you can address this need. And you then don't need to ask too much of your job, and you can enjoy the job in the end much more when you are not putting all this pressure on it. I think we are sometimes asking too much of our work, and that's basically because of how our society is structured, how much importance is placed on what job you have, how much that is tied to your identity. But you do have the power here to disentangle yourself from the job, and it's much easier to formulate and find that dream job for yourself when you're not expecting that it's going to meet all these different needs that you can much easier fill through your other life areas. So to sum it up, what I've tried to convey in this episode is that I do not believe that dream job is a complete myth and that we shouldn't strive to get ourselves into great jobs that are a good match for where we are in life. But the main message that I want to share here, that your dream job, it's not some kind of a destination that you now decide and you work towards for the rest of your life or the rest of your career. But I think of a dream job as kind of a fit for where you are in life right now. And when it comes to careers, we can sometimes over prioritize our future self, and we are trying to do things that maybe now we don't enjoy and that are meaningless to us right now, but we believe that if we stick with it, then we will get to that dream job destination in the future and everything's going to be great. But it can happen that by the time you make it there, your life is in a completely different place and that destination doesn't feel as great as you originally thought it would. So I would recommend being a bit more selfish and believe that your future self will figure it out. And instead of thinking, how can I secure myself for the future and what would be the smart field for the future and what would be a good company to have in my CV for the future, think of where you are now, what you need right now, what makes sense to you, what are your life needs, what are the things that you really need to live a happy life right now, what are the things that you can let go of temporarily. And that is enough of a pressure, that is enough of a task. You do not need to add an extra layer of worrying about where that's gonna get you in the future, because none of us knows what's gonna happen with the world. You don't even know where your life is gonna take you, and you don't know what will be your priorities, what will be your interests, what will be your passions. So you can really just focus on your current self and thinking about what the best match for you would be right now. And as I mentioned, if you find thinking about the best match for you right now, really difficult, really challenging. If you would like to have a really productive discussion about your career, about your next best step, then fill out the form that I will link in the description box, and I'll get back to you and we can figure it out together. So I hope this episode has given you lots of different new thoughts, new aspects, how you can think about a dream job. I would also encourage you to think that, are you maybe right now in some kind of a job, in some kind of career situation that a few years back was absolutely unimaginable for you? Or if someone told you 10 years ago that this is what you would be doing right now, you would think like, wow, like I made it. I made it to my dream job. And does it really feel on day-to-day basis as dreamy as you once thought? And that's not, to say that something has gone wrong, but I just want to de-escalate the pressure that the idea of dream job can introduce to us, that we can feel sometimes that once we get into that dream job, our life is going to be so great. We're never going to have any struggles or problems or doubts. And maybe you now are realizing that is not the case. And careers are never-ending journeys where we all the time need to be figuring things out as we go, as our lives change, as our priorities, our interests change. So it's a never-ending journey. That's just the way it is. And that's the best possible way to go through your career, to be constantly thinking what's working, what's not working, and finding smaller or bigger adjustments. So I hope this was an enjoyable episode for you, that it gave you some new perspectives. You can let me know if there's something that resonated with you, if there are some topics that you want me to talk about in the future. I am gonna promise here that I will really try to be more consistent with recording these episodes, because I love doing that so much. It's always a bit of a hassle to find the time, to find the energy, to get my setup ready. But then once I hit record and I can talk about these topics, I enjoy it so much. Even though LinkedIn is the main place where I share content, I am naturally someone who likes to go more in depth and kind of talk at length about different things and really get into the context of everything. So podcast is much better suited for me for that, because I can go in depth. I don't need to think about how to make it as short as possible. So I really love recording these episodes, and I have lots of different ideas of what I want to talk about in the future. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next episode. Have a great week.